Hello and welcome back to another Let's Be Honest pattern review. Today we're going to review the Ash Jeans by Nielsen patterns. If you want to follow along with how I review, you can download my ideal pattern standards and review rubric document in the description. Are you ready to see how the Ash Jeans scored? Me too. I'm Saremy, and this is the second review in this new series. If you want to see the first one, please check out the playlist on the screen now. Make sure to subscribe and you won't miss a single one. And now, let's be honest about the Ash Jeans by Nielsen patterns. So far since I began Sew, I have sewn 8 different jeans patterns for women and 2 for men. Just so you have an idea of my experience with some of the current home sewing patterns for jeans out there right now. I've made the Ames jeans by Cashmerette, Dawn jeans by Nielsen, Morgan by Closet Core, Saffron by Deer and Doe, Mountain View pull-ons by Itch to Stitch, Ginger jeans by Closet Core, and the Zen pants by 5 out of 4, which I still consider jeans since I used a stretch denim, and they're also a pull-on style. My review process is divided into 3 sections: an overview of the garment, a review of the design, and a review of the technical categories of the rubric, and my opinion and experience with the pattern. For the Ash Jeans, I happen to own the printed copy, but let's head to the website as if I'm shopping for this pattern, just because that's usually your first, time that you're seeing it if you didn't see it in a fabric shop. All right, so here we are on the website for Nielsen patterns, and I looked up the Ash Jeans, and it says 4-in-1 because it comes in 4 different cuts, like slim or flare, boot cut, and I think cropped or maybe wide leg, and combinations of those. And you have, there's 12 reviews, there is a printed pattern and a PDF version. And there's a little description which says the ultimate stretch jean pattern set includes 4 cuts and multiple lengths for tall, regular, and cropped. Pattern features a comfortable rise, close fit through the waist and hips, and classic jean details. Version 1 is a modern slim leg, and version 2 is a skinny. Version 3 is a flare, and version 4 is a wide leg. All right, so there's a skill rating here which says 3 out of 5. So we know that they think that the most difficult pattern would be a 5, and they're rating this kind of in the middle. The sizing for this goes from 24 to 36 inch, and then there's a size chart here. And then what I want to note here is that it looks on the website like there isn't sizing for anyone over the size 20, but I think it's just a little typo because you can get their inclusive sizing version, which they call curve. So if you look on the website, I have it pulled up here. We'll look at this size chart real quick and then we'll look at it. So there is the curve size chart right there, but this is just their size chart for Nielsen patterns. So for the waist, you have 24 inches up to 38 inches in the 0 to 20 size chart, or 61 centimeters to 97 centimeters. And then the curve goes from 32 inches to 48 inches for the waist, and then for the metric, it goes 81 centimeters to 122. So the curve, there is a curve version of this pattern, and I think they just forgot to do this right here where it says looking for sizes 0 to 20, click here. I think they just forgot to write this little line right here and put the reverse of it on the original pattern. So this explains a lot, because when you look at the hashtag, you're not going to see a lot of curve versions of the jeans. And so hopefully maybe this will encourage a few folks to sew the curve version, because it'd be nice to see a lot more of these sewn. I don't think that it's been out for that long, but I feel like it did come out in the past year. The Ash Jeans came out in April of 2018, so almost 4 years. So there's quite a bit of information out there right now. All right, so the printed pattern, you get I have the printed version, so we're going to get to see a little bit about that. You get a multi-size pattern and then an instruction booklet. And then for the PDF, you get digital instructions to print out on letter or A4, print at home on letter or A4, and then a copy shop version, which really just means like a really large format. printable. I don't see any notes that it's going to be on a projector version, but I will say in the About Me on this website, let's see if I can find it. Okay, as of 2020, we began adding size layering to our patterns. So there's also layering, and maybe I didn't see anything about projector. I thought I saw something about projectors on here, but it's probably the layering that I'm thinking of. So there, it looks like there is layers on any version that's been printed recently. So since they did that About Me. So if you have a PDF version and you might need the update, just know that if you want the layers, you should probably update. So we have a few pictures here, so we can scroll through. I think a lot of people are probably going, well, yeah, those look great, but I want to see it on more sizes. And there isn't a lot of size representation here in the product where you're buying the product. There's the back of the envelope. There's a lot on it, and we'll go over that in the review part of it. So here you go. There is a blog. So let's see, and then the curve. We can look at some of the curve pictures here. I don't know what size this person is wearing, unfortunately. I think it fits really good. I mean, I don't think that that's going to be any surprise to anybody. It fits really good in these pictures. I will say that these jeans look better fit on their models than a lot of jeans do in the model pictures. So that's a good thing, right? Okay, so let's see. So there is a blog. And so when you go to search on the website with, like, say you're here in the product version of the site, and you go up here, you can actually search Ash Jeans blog, and then you'll find a lot of stuff. And then I went to the site, went to the blog here, and then, you know, if you click the blog here and then you click up here, you're going to get all the articles in their blog that refer to the Ash Jeans. And that's how I could figure out when these came out, because the first blog post is right here in April 2018. You can see the tester versions and other modifications and hacks. There's a sew along here if you're interested in that, at least for the fly front. Here's a sew along for the pair of jeans. And just other pairings with some of the garments in their line. And then there's like finished pocket bags, things like that. All right, so let's do a little hashtag review. And I'm just going to scroll down. So the hashtag is hashtag MNASH. All of Megan Nielsen patterns, you put the M and the N in front of the pattern name, just so you know. This is the one that they promote on their material, not Ash Jeans, but MNASH. And we might even come up with more if we put an M in Ash Jeans. So I've kind of perused this really quickly and kind of saw, what was in this hashtag. First, it's always a good idea to kind of look ahead. And one thing I noticed is that most of the people that have sewn this are kind of about the same size. And so there's not a whole lot of representation of different sizes in here. So it's going to be kind of hard for you to tell, if you're not one of these sizes, how this is going to fit you. They all look really good though. This is the one thing about this pair of jeans is, I'm going to tell you, I've made, I made 8 different indie jean patterns, and I've actually really liked all of them. So don't get me wrong, but there's something about the fit of this one that is a little bit better for my body, especially for my back waist area, which is kind of a troublesome area for me. And I've made 4 pairs of these. Now, I will say, I didn't plan on making 4 pairs. I made my black pair for the very first one out of a Needle Sharp subscription box. And I loved those. I was like, wow, I really love these. I made the skinny cropped version, so it's not as wearable for me as a full length pair of jeans. When I'm wearing jeans, it's usually cold outside. It's either hot or cold here. There's like the like transitional seasons are really great, but they can actually be pretty warm here as well. So I don't really like my ankles being cold. That's just my weird thing. Shoulders and ankles, like some people it's their hands, sometimes, whatever it is. For me, it's my ankles. So I wanted to make another pair, and I wanted to make a larger pair since my size has changed in the last couple years. And so I made a pair of Ash jeans this fall, and I planned on making a video, how-to video, and then I filmed the whole thing, and it just didn't come out that great. The denim is really hard to film. So I was like, all right, well, I have a new pair of jeans. And so then I decided to make another pair because I thought, okay, I'll record another pair. Same thing. So I've got 2 more pairs. And then now I have another pair cut out. So I've made 3, and I have another pair cut out and that it's a lighter. I had to get some new denim. So I have sewn these quite a few times very recently, so I'm pretty familiar with the pattern. Those don't look like Ash jeans. Let's look at that. Yeah, I don't not see anything having to do with the Ash jeans. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes people use an older hashtag. All right, so like I said, I do feel like there could be a little bit more diversity in the sizes represented here, but that's nobody's fault. That's just who has decided to post pictures of their makes. Hopefully that's not because people in other sizes aren't really liking the fit of it, you know? But like I said, I do feel like the fit of these is actually pretty darn good. They sit up above, like I would say about the, I'm wearing a pair right now. They're about at the belly button for me. So not low rise and not terribly high rise. All right, so let's get to the pattern review and the rubric. Okay, so I have my rubric out here and the little notes that I've made for this pattern review. So for the pattern envelope, which I consider what someone's going to see when they're shopping for the pattern. So they don't get to open it up. They don't get to really kind of delve into the guts of the pattern. So they're limited to what they can see on the front and the back envelope. So I have mine here, and there is quite a bit on the front. So you have the skill level, and then you have a waist range here. You have a couple of different cuts here. You have all 4 different cuts here as far as the leg goes. And then there's a little bit of a description. There isn't a back view, and maybe it just goes without saying that jeans, you know, look the same on the back, but some don't. Some don't have a yoke, and some have darts, and so those are kind of good to know. You want to make sure that's a jeans with the elements that you need to be able to fit it to you, right? On the back, there is quite a bit, and you also have the hashtag, which I really like there, because maybe you're in the store and you want to just pull up the hashtags on your phone. You could, as long as you can get your internet there. The one thing I didn't notice the one thing that I couldn't figure out was that on the pattern it says there's an app, and there's a QR code. Here, I'll show it to you. It's on the instructions here. Once you purchase it, it's right here. So I couldn't find the Megan Nielsen app on the store, in the app store at all. And when I scanned the QR code just on its own, it goes to a camera lens. So it may be just disabled now. I know that she and her husband do develop apps, and so maybe this one just wasn't getting enough traction or action really by people, so they just let it go. I'm not sure. Maybe it's there and I just couldn't find it, but I couldn't find hide nor hair of it. So I'm not sure, and I couldn't find any word on the website if it's still going or not, but it's worth looking into because maybe that's something that would be really helpful to some folks. You have a little bit more description here. You have all the versions there. The front and back views are small, but they're there. There's a shopping list here, and it tells you different zipper lengths for different sizes and the stretch amount, and there's a stretch ruler right here, so if you're at the store shopping. The fabric information is pretty good because it gives you specific percentages for fabric content, but there's also something more in the instructions that says, you know, just because you got a fabric that has those amounts, it doesn't mean it's going to be exactly the same stretch, and that is so true. All right, and then you have a imperial and a metric chart here. So that is the envelope, and we already saw what the website looked like, and it was about the same amount of information, except that there's hyperlinks in the web version, right? All right, and so some of the things that I really like is that there's a skill thing on there. There's the website, so you can kind of tell. There isn't any mention what size the model is wearing. She's obviously on the smaller end of the size range, in my opinion. Like I would assume so. But that being said, I am at the upper end of the original size chart, so maybe that original size chart fit fairly smaller people on that end of the sizing world, and the curve range is adding a bit more to that. So all right, and then let's see here. As far as the information for the finished measurement and the size chart goes, you have a waist and a hip for the body measurements when you're trying to select which size you want. And there is hip and rise and inseam information on the finished measurements for, and the waistband as well for the finished measurements. So that gives you some more help on determining like where you fall on the size chart. I think that's pretty good for jeans. There's not a whole lot of information you can give with pants that beyond these like 4 crucial things. So she had some all for me. All right, so let's look at the instructions. We're going to the next instructions. So on, the pattern envelope, they're pretty good, right? All right, so for the instructions, now the funny thing is, you know how I say I would just really like seam allowances to be everywhere in the instructions? Well, they are in here. The funny thing is, you actually have to read the instructions to find out what the seam allowances are. So it's almost gone too far for me. I like that. I want that to stay, but I would have really liked to know somewhere at the beginning, probably about, at least on the first page of the sewing, if not the right here at the very beginning. Like, I don't think people realize how important the seam allowance is to know, because you're not even concerned about all this when you're trying to fit your clothes. And you have to know the seam allowances in order to do any pattern work on the pattern. And the seam allowances aren't on the pattern pieces either. Maybe in a reprinting this has changed. My pattern, I'm pretty sure I've had it for quite a bit now. So I don't think, I don't really know. So that is my one thing that I really was missing on this. And you can tell, like, a long time ago I actually wrote 5/8 inch seams, but that's not true throughout. It's different on different pieces, which I really appreciate. I like it when a pattern drafter does different seam allowances in different areas, because not all seams should be treated the same. And smaller seam allowances are actually helpful to the sewing process in a lot of cases, and she pays attention to that. So that's not really accurate right there. So I probably just saw it in there and I was like, oh, 5/8, great. But then if you read it through, you'll see that they vary. There is some nice little helpful things where you can record your stitch lengths, because she has some recommendations for that. And let's see. Then you get right into the sewing. So I want to note that, like, I think a lot of people are a little bit nervous about sewing jeans, and I understand that. But I don't want to be just one more person who's sewn jeans and said, it's not that hard, because I know what that sounds like. This is what I'm going to say. The 2 hard things about sewing jeans is the thickness of the denim and your machine capability. That is number 1 in my opinion, because any kind of frustration with that makes everything 10 times more frustrating, right? So if you knew your machine was going to do all of that really easily, you wouldn't even be worried about it, and you can really focus on the sewing. The sewing actually is very, very simple on jeans. It's a lot of straight sewing and top stitching. And it kind of helps you up your top stitching game, and you can keep it really simple. If your top stitching isn't that great, or your machine doesn't like top stitching, you can keep them simple and not even go overboard on that. The fly zipper gives a lot of people pause, but again, it's the same thing. It's like 6, 7, 8 short seams. They're all straight, and you just really got to just focus for the 20 minutes it takes you to do it. Once you've sewn a bunch, they don't take you even that long. So I am going to argue that jeans really are in that middle of the road skill level because of that. When it comes to fitting, I'm going to put that at the very top end of a skill level for fitting, because we all know how hard it is to fit jeans. So I think really we're looking at the fit in conjunction with the fly and the heavy weight of the fabric. Those are the things that give us pause when sewing pants or jeans. So, all right, so she jumps right into sewing the fly zipper. while I like that we're just getting it over with on one hand, on the other hand, I always do the back of my jeans first. I feel like getting your sewing legs under you, understanding how your machine's going to handle sewing the denim that you picked and the top stitch thread if you've got some, and just getting used to when to switch between your top stitch thread and your regular color. I think sewing all the way through the back, the yoke, the pockets, the rise, all of that, get through all of that and then start on the front. And in fact, when I sew jeans, I always do that no matter what the instructions say. That way, at least I know how my machine's working before I get to the fly. When this is a front and center focal point for the eye, and you want it to look good, and you're already a little bit nervous about it. So that's my only thing about the starting with the front here. So my major problem with this pattern is, and maybe this should go in my opinion section, but is the style of zipper fly that you put on here. And I'll talk more about that in the opinion section. So, so we're just talking about the instructions and how they look. It's very nice instructions. They're very good. If you look at the reviews on the site, there's a testament to how a lot of people are just like, I didn't realize I could do this, and these instructions made it possible, and that's true. And there were some helpful things on the blog as well. So I think the sewing instructions are very nice for that reason. All right, as far as the pattern usability, there's no seam allowances written on the pattern pieces, which is kind of crazy. There's no lengthen and shorten lines. It does say that there is layers in PDFs after 2020. So if you need that kind of, feature, that would be helpful. As far as the cutting goes, it does tell you which pieces to cut per view. I really appreciate that. And there are also no lines denoting hip or waist on the pattern, and so it goes without saying that there's none for knee or calf or anything like that as well. So that kind of usability for letting us do some of the drafting and fitting ourselves kind of makes it a little harder. You have to locate those things on your own. The other thing that's really important with knowing the seam allowances is when you go to sew, if you're wanting to do flat felled seams, it's good to know if there's going to be enough seam allowance to do that, or if the pattern was set up for that, because sometimes the front will have a different seam allowance from the back seam that you're sewing to. So again, that's my push for seam allowances are really, really important. So that's, I guess I've said that enough probably. All right, as far as the marketing and inclusivity, there is a lot of sizes offered now. You know, we have the curve range, but we didn't know that when we go to the website and look at the Ash jeans. And I'm sure it's just an oversight, and maybe a kind person will let them know that. So that would have been really helpful for a lot of people, because I'm sure a lot of people, and I almost didn't notice it. So the thing is, I put in Ash jeans on their website and the curve didn't come up. Just the regular ones came up. And it's probably because they haven't been there as long and I didn't put in curve. So when you put in curve, it does come up, and maybe eventually they'll both come up, and that would be helpful. I actually was a little bit like, oh man, this is a pattern that doesn't have a lot of sizes. I feel bad reviewing this one, but we're going to do it. And then when I saw that the curve existed, I was like, well, heck, there it is. I didn't even know that the Ash jeans came in curve. I saw the announcement when the curve patterns were released, and I just didn't remember if the Ash jeans were in there. It's hard to keep track of everything. All right, so for the marketing and inclusivity as well, there's the hashtag. There's a lot of, makes in there. There is a sew along available. We still have no clue what any of these sizes are on these models and what the models wear. So for me, that's a little bit of a down thing, especially since that hashtag is filled with people roughly in this pretty narrow size range. I hardly saw anyone in there, even my size. And I think I am making the 36 when I make mine, with a few modifications for fit. Yeah, I'm making the 35 or the 36. By the way, that is the very top end of the size range of the original one. So the body type only mentions height, and there are modification ideas, and there are modification ideas in the the sewing instructions, but also on the blog. So that's kind of a helpful thing. Then there's tutorials, and there even is an email. I know someone said they like to know, is there an email or Facebook group or something? Because they feel like when a company says, hey, if you're having trouble, email us, they feel like that really says a lot about how much they stand behind their patterns. And there is one for the Megan Nielsen site. So I think that's pretty bold too, I think. All right, fit versus reality. Does it look the way it does on the cover? And I think it's pretty good. I mean, you see all of those gals. Like I said, it's a very narrow size range, so it is looking like the cover of the pattern. In my opinion, when I look at this pattern, every time I look at it, I see, and it's a trick of the photograph, so I'm not saying it's how it is. It's a trick of the photograph. It looks like the waist and the hip are roughly the same size, and there's not a lot of taper, but I am definitely living proof that these fit me, and I have a pretty significant taper there. But I do have a belly in front, and in the back I'm kind of scooped out. So it fits me. And one of the other things I really like about a jeans pattern is when it has a curved waistband, and that is fully personal preference. It has nothing to do with the quality of the fit. It is what your body requires, and for me, a curved waistband is great. In fact, I've actually put that waistband on other pants. Don't tell anybody because I know it works for me. The other styles would be straight, and some of them are folded, some of them are in pieces. There's a lot of different kinds of waistbands out there, but basically the two general ones are straight or curved. For the pattern drafting, I think that's pretty good, except for, the usability things. It definitely missed a lot of the marks for me on there without the lines denoting waist and hip, or not waist, but hip and things like that. But the drafting, as far as how it sews together, is really good. The fact that there's no seam allowances on the pattern pieces is kind of a big problem, but the pattern drafting it works very well. It sews together good. All right, and then that kind of goes into the sewing. I think the skill is pretty accurate. I personally don't want that fly sewn first. I would much rather sew the back of the jeans first, and I recommend that to everybody, especially if you're kind of new to it. And I am missing those seam allowances, as stated, but throughout the instructions, they are there, and that is huge. There aren't any titled steps, but the one thing that is really interesting, instead of a titled step, you do things in a section. So you have, the zipper. So then this whole section here that's under one title. And then you have front pockets, Probably a lot of patterns do that. And, the fact that there's no titled steps kind of, still missing, but at the same time with the pictures also very, very clear next to the step, which is really nice. They're not jumping around everywhere, because that's a problem sometimes. I tend to do that with my own illustrations, and I'm like, what am I doing? So, all right. So yeah, the titled steps is really nice, or titled sections is really nice. All right, and sizing and reality. All right, well, I feel like on this one, it's really hard to see how well the sizing is going, because there's just not a lot of people other than probably those sizes in that bottom size range that have posted it. So maybe now that we see that there is actually a curved version, maybe more and more people will be sewing these and showing these, because the few I've seen on the curve people it looks really good. So, okay, so as far as my opinion, some of the positives for me are the curved waistband, and I really like the fit of this pair of jeans. It fits me really, really well. The sewing is really nice. The instructions are really good. I am not a fan of this fly style, though. I will say that. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. It all sews together really nicely. But in my opinion, this fly style, it really shows the zipper when your fly is closed, as opposed to another way to sew the fly. And I'll probably do a video about that in the future, on if you want to change out the fly pattern pieces on a pattern. So you can see on my Ash jeans, you can see my zipper. It's right there. And for me, that is really, really annoying. I don't like being able to see my zipper when I'm walking around. I want it to be tucked in there a little deeper. And other jeans I've made, that isn't the case. So that is one thing. If I wasn't making a tutorial on these, I would switch out the fly style. And because I didn't know I wasn't going to use these for a tutorial, I would have done that then, but I was too late. So, all right, so here's a close-up of the fly. And you don't sew the center front shut when you sew this one. You leave it open. And it has separate fly pieces. But even though this edge is supposed to go about 1/4 of an inch past this seam, that doesn't really happen very well. Especially if you've got a tummy bulge, you're going to be pushing on it. It's going to show. If you get this even 1/8 of an inch off, it's going to show, and that brass really shows up. And this zipper tape here is a dummy. Like if this was a fake, like a trial. The jean zipper is much narrower, so the teeth are much closer to the edge here. This tape is about 1 1/4 inches wide, whereas a jeans zipper is about 1 inch wide. So that's why this one looks like it works, but it just doesn't really, it's just not my favorite. You can see why now. It's really hard to film it too, because I've just put the brightness way, way up to be able to show you that. You can see the back here. Maybe a little better. So yeah, so I would say the positives for me on this one are the fit. I really like it. I think the sewing is really great. The pattern works really good. All of it sews together really well. I like that they added the curve sizing, thank goodness, because that really was in need. I like the curved waistband. As far as my negatives go, I don't like that fly style, and I don't like sewing the front before the back. That's personal preference. The seam allowance thing is a big problem for me, especially anyone who's fitting jeans and who isn't fitting their pants. The seam allowance is really important. I really am missing those body lines, like the hip and stuff like that, so that you know what you're changing. All right, so let's score it here. All right, so for the design and the pattern envelope, I think like we couldn't ask for much better. I mean, we could ask for a few things there, especially more sizes shown, but it is really hard to fit on the pattern envelope. On the website, I would like to see more sizes, but on the pattern envelope, as far as all the details, I think the details are really good, and there's a little bit more than what we usually see. So I'm going to say I couldn't ask for much better there, because I'm going to add the other things in another section. As far as the instructions go, I'm going to also say couldn't ask for much better. That seam allowance thing is a problem for me, but I'm not going to mark it down more than once for that. All right, as far as the pattern usability, I'm going to say you'll be able to get the job done. I know that's kind of a big demotion from the other two, but the fact that there's no lines denoting where things are and the seam allowances aren't on there, those are really huge. You really don't need a whole lot for fitting pants, and the two main things you need aren't there. So, all right, as far as marketing and inclusivity, well, it's good we're looking at this now, because a few months ago it would have probably been quite a different score. The fact that there's the curve line, and let me just check that. I want to check that measurement. Let's see the size chart. Yeah, so the curve goes up to a 48-inch waist and a 58-inch hip. That's pretty good for jeans, especially from where that size range originally was. That was quite a big jump for them. I know it's not up to that 62-inch hip people are really hoping for, but 58 inches is getting pretty close. And you do have the stretch denim. Not that I would rely on that to get a good fit, but it does help if you're going to grade up a little bit, right? So I think you have something to work with, in other words. So as far as the marketing and inclusivity goes, I'm going to say I'm having trouble with this just because you look at the hashtag and I just really don't see a whole lot of people besides a certain type of person wearing it. And for me, that says that they're really not marketing to I don't know, maybe it doesn't feel to me like they're marketing to people outside of how those people look. So I'm going to say you'll be able to get the job done. Ooh, it's kind of spicy, I know, sorry. All right, as far as the technical goes, fit in reality, definitely couldn't ask for much better. Same with the drafting. I think the drafting's great, and the sewing. I think it's really amazing. I really don't like the those other things, but they are personal preferences. The fact that I like the fly a certain way and that we sew the front first, those are personal preferences. That is nothing to do with how well it goes together and how smooth and how it flows and everything. So as far as the sizing and reality, all right, I'm not gonna ding it for the inclusivity thing here, except a tiny bit, only because how do we know? I mean, we don't really know all the sizes it's fitting and how well that curve range is doing yet. So I'm going to put it in the pretty darn good. All right, as far as my opinion goes, like I said, I've made 4 pairs of these. This is my go-to jeans. I'll admit that. This is my go-to pair of jeans. When I first made them, I didn't think that was going to be the case. And when I decided to make another pair, I realized that when I want to put pants on in my closet, the only reason I wasn't picking my Ash jeans, because I wanted to every time, was the cropped tapered leg that I had done. And I realized, okay, you know what? What if I had a pair of those that was full length and not slim at the ankle? I would wear the heck out of those. I wear the heck out of these. So I think I didn't mention this, but I do think the pocket could go a little further towards the front of the pant, but the depth is really good. But that might be just a personal preference as well. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's still a good pocket. It's not a fake one. So I feel like I really got to commit here. As far as my opinion goes, I'm kind of torn because of the like I'm not able to see how really well it fits on the curve range. The photos look really promising as far as what other patterns I've seen looking on that range. So I'm gonna say 30. I'm gonna say 30 points. I don't take the sizing thing lightly. That's a really important thing. If everybody can't sew it, then it doesn't matter. You know, like I'm not speaking to 10 people, I'm speaking to everybody, and so the sizing thing is really important to me. But I just want to underscore that I do think it's a really fantastic pattern and it sews together really well. That's not even a bad score. I'm just really hoping that the overall score puts it where I would love to see it. So let's just see where we're at here. So we have 20, 40, 60 points here, 20, 40, 60, 75 points here. So that's 135. That's a 165 out of 200, which gives it the Silver Sewist Award. I think that's great. Like I said, I do think it's a really great pattern, and the sizing is definitely something we're going to watch for. Really hope more people sew it. I think that's a really solid score, Silver Sewist, and I'm happy with that, you know. I think probably in the next year it could easily win a golden all once we get some of those other things kind of taken care of. So we'll see. All right, well, let me know if you've made the Ash jeans. I would love to know how your experience was, especially if you're in that new curve range. Let me know. Is there a reason we're not seeing folks post their picture in the hashtag? Tell us, you know. Maybe you've been wanting to sew it and you've kind of hesitated because there just wasn't a lot to go off of. I highly recommend it. I think they're a really great pattern. So please give it a shot. Let me know what you think. And thanks for following along. I'm Saremy. Thanks for watching my latest pattern review. You can follow along by looking at the playlist of pattern reviews. These are called the Let's Be Honest Pattern Review series, and you can subscribe to me for more reviews. This is only the second one, so there's more to come. And the next up will be a new release pattern called the Azores Top and Dress by Itch to Stitch Patterns. See you then. Bye.